let's go into the agricultural sector. Now, for farmers that have been encouraged to export some of their produce, for those in the agricultural sector who have tried to export their produce. Now, stories that have come from some of them is that some of their commodities have been rejected. And this is something that happened over time. So the Standards Organization of Nigeria is moving to come up with some measures to ensure that this actually stops. But basically, what do you think is the fundamental issue here?
Yeah, the issue is straightforward. You know, it's been a situation of where, you know, they say when I remember when we were young, our parents would tell us then that you are showing your bad character at home now. When you will now go and show it outside, then you will disgrace yourself. Exactly. So I think that's what has played. You know, regulation has been a problem. We have been doing it within ourselves. You have contractors quota a road, and in 1 week the road starts pulling. You have people selling. You have buses in city centers selling health supplements with speakers on their vehicle. You see people running with the drugs or whatever, and they're in a city center. There's no regulation. Nobody is asking how quality is this supplement. You know, so there's so many regulation issues, and that's what has come to play now. You know, they have rejected our commodity. It didn't start today, as you say, about 3, 4, 5 years. Currently, our beans is on ban in the EU. Currently, it's authoritative. EU has banned our beans. America has banned our smoked fish. Smoked fish. We can't import or export smoked fish to America. Mexico, a small country in Central America, they has also banned our zobo leaves. Why? The reason is simple. They've said that the level of our mycotoxins is beyond international tolerable levels. You know, there are standards to all these things. You know, EU, I think, is about 2 to 4% tolerable level per billion tons of whatever you are bringing. Per billion, 2 to 4% tolerable toxin levels. And US, I think, is even more liberal, about 20%. So how do these toxins? I was listening to an expert explaining that most of the source is from our herbicides that we use, our pesticides that these farmers use, without calling names, to control weed, to clear their weed. So most of these herbicides have now been phased out by the international community.
They've brought out
They've brought out safer ones. You know, so we still use them. These toxins, they sink into the ground and find a way to penetrate into these crops. So the last report that I read, most of our beans, before the American government banned it, that they had toxin levels, mycotoxins levels as high as 50%, 40%.
Which is harmful to the health.
Exactly, and this is what we consume in the country. You know, so health, kidney, you talk kidney, liver, and so many other things, even children, stunted growth. So they were most of the crops that were complained about that were flagged by this international community have been beans, groundnuts, potatoes, yams, and so on. And this groundnut that we consume almost on a daily. So it goes to, you see tomatoes most times, just buy tomatoes and the next day you see it having this white fungi substance around it. Yeah, you just wash it, and those are serious toxins that I was reading. An expert was saying that you need about, not just washing and frying kills it, that you need about 500 degrees Fahrenheit
and
of heat to kill it.
You don't want to do that because it would be as if you're burning of what you want
100
to cook.
degrees is what is the boiling level. So you can imagine 500, so it's chaff that you just be eating.
Just eat.
So it shows what we have been exposed to in this country. And you know,
it's been accepted over time.
You eat beans, you buy gari most times. We are not even talking of the toxins. Let's go beyond the toxins from these herbicides, fertilizers that get into the, you now bring the cassava out with all its toxins, then you fry the gari, you see sometimes you buy gari, you see physics, that's physics, you see hair,
storage, not properly
strand,
stored.
Exactly. And you go to the village, I went to a village, I went to buy gari. You see that most of these, their village, they don't have doors. It's open because they feel secure. You see them spread gari on the mud floor directly. So you can imagine rats, rodents come, urinate. And so these are what we just take and export. So problem with storage, and it also boils down to, it's a chain. Both the farmers, some are ignorant because most fertilizers, you have some people come to the village, they just sell fertilizers for them. They call them, this fertilizer, how many months do you grow your sugarcane? in 1 year. No, you can get it in three months.
And they
all
need
of
to
them
turn
buy
over
it. Exactly.
quickly.
They sell it very cheap, 100 naira, because of the high chemical, which is no longer accepted in international committee. And you now sell it to the farmers, and they use it because there's no finances are low, sensitization is low. You know, so that's where
monitoring is also low.
Very, very low. You know, there was a time we had marketing boards in the 60s, I don't know, 70s, even 80s. You know, their role was to grade them before you export your commodities. The marketing board, they had extension officers in different wards and so on. They grade your crop, your produce that you are exporting. So it has to be a minimum, either grade A or grade B plus, before you're allowed to export. But at this point now, there are no marketing boards. Most of these goods that are even exported are small goods. So if you are smuggling it out, it means there is no license even. So that alone has knocked it off. So those are the things that the international community has brought up. So they are now concerned about themselves and their citizens, and saying, if you, the Nigerians, are okay with it, we are not okay with it. So about the last Ministry of Agriculture, they were saying about 687 billion worth of goods have been rejected in the last 8 years.
And that's money. A lot of farmers take loan for each farming season.
Exactly. So the government has lost revenue. The farmers themselves have lost revenue too. And we are talking about diversifying from oil. Manufacturing is a no-no, so no forex from there.
And the market is also being spoilt for other exporters who may even have good quality food.
Absolutely. So it means that the only source where we would have looked for as an alternative to forex is now at a risk of being flagged. So I think it all boils down to regulation, government providing finances. Most of these farmers, even cocoa was another very terrible experience too that has been returned. So most of these farmers are old, you know, so it's now at this point, 60, 70 years, now want to teach them new. So the youths, it would have been a good time to bring the youths into farming. But how will they come when they are still using hoe, they are still using cutlass? So what's power in the farms? The storage is almost zero because there's no energy.
So they must sun dry most of the produce.
You sun dry, and they even use other chemicals to preserve most of their crops. Some use carbide, some use different. I mean, you look at yam. In your yam, you can hardly see any yam where there's no hole or puncture. And these are things that the international community will not accept, because they will ask what happened. They carry out tests on these things. So there has to be storage. Energy, how do you store your tomatoes? So most times these tomatoes is taken out of the farm, the roads are bad, so they have to find some obscure means of preserving it, and that's adding further to the toxins. So I think it's a chain of neglect all the while by government in supporting these farmers, and it has finally rubbed out on us. The international committee is skeptic about our products, and the farmers are at risk. Everything is. So I think standards organization, I read, they said they've come out with 37 standards. I think it goes beyond these standards. We've never had a problem with regulations. It's implementing them. So in February, the Minister of Agriculture set up an interministerial, because this came up in January. So he set up an interministerial committee made up of the Ministry of Agric, Ministry of Trade, NAFDAC, Nigeria Export Promotion Council, and so on. They were all supposed to, between February and now it's about 8 months. So what has changed? We don't hear jingles. Sensitization was supposed to be the #1 thing they should do. Sensitize these farmers, because ignorance is also a problem on safe pesticides, safe herbicides, safe fertilizers that they should be using now. But we don't see these jingles. So what has changed? Do we now have extension workers in these villages who are guiding these farmers, who are monitoring?
So it's beyond sun.
Yeah, it's beyond just standards. They have just rolled out a new standard. They said 37 standards. And they are saying by December they will review it and add more standards. So what's the regulation? Which sun operative or officials are the customs reports when these goods are about being exported to test them? Because if they meet national standards, then there's high probability or high rate that it will meet the international standards. But at the ports, who is there to...
There seems to be concentration on our agro commodities meeting international standard than even consideration for it meeting national standard. Do we even have a national standard as far as agro commodities are concerned?
I think there are standards. You have the sun, you have the NAFDAC. There's another one also. You know, they are supposed to watch out. Even the Ministry of Agriculture.
The reason I ask if we have national standards is because if issues had not come up internationally with our commodities, would we be even talking about the quality of the food, the quality of the agro commodities that we produce here in Nigeria? Now, for those that are exported, they have standard organizations, they have regulatory bodies who check whatever you bring in to make sure that they are wholesome. But here we have NAFDAC, here we have SUN, and we also have other bodies that are supposed to ensure that everything produced in the country is of a certain standard. Now, why is it that these regulatory bodies are also not checking for local consumption, checking for the quality of commodities that are produced for local consumption?
Yeah, I think that's where we also come back to the development, the way our elites, the way government has seemed to obscure our minds or divert our thinking so successfully towards growth. Okay. That's what I talked about initially. So we are now so growth driven. We are looking at GDP. Let's export, get export revenue. Let's get forex. You know. So we have now left the development side of it, which is welfare. You know, so economic growth and development. So we are now so GDP driven, GDP obsessed. So what am I talking about development? A very common, in economy, a very common measure of development is the HDI variable, that Human Development Index. And there you talk about quality of life, you talk about quality of education, you talk about well-being, the health. So if we are concerned about the health of Nigerians, because these toxins is just a nice name, it's poison, that's the other name for toxins. So if you have a commodity like beans, the American government said they've tested, you're having like 40–50% toxin level, poison level. And you now have things like granite. We eat it. These are things you just throw in your mouth. We give our children to eat with toxin levels. You have, most times these granules they want to sell, they see fungi, they wash it and sell. So if these are things that our citizens are consuming without government being particular about, you know, it shows that our development, the development and consciousness of government to its citizens, which is the #1 primary function of government, the well-being, the welfare of the citizens. So that's where development comes. So what are these agencies, NAFDAC and so on, without having to come and indict them? I think they are not doing enough. So what's the regulation? So I think government should focus beyond just growth, beyond just GDP, beyond the GDP figures. And let's be more concerned about the health of we Nigerians, you know, added to just basics. Let's even leave the toxins. Basic handling process from the farms down to processing. You have a truck carrying cow meats raw on the truck. It delivers the cow meat somewhere. Then the same truck comes without sanitizing it. You put granules. It carries it. It carries beans. You know, all these toxin levels. You have the person selling smoked fish would sneeze and everything. And we take this smoked fish. Everybody will come and touch it. And we take it and we eat it without even, most of us don't even, you know, beans. Everything is exposed, our gari. So it's basic regulation. I think government and its agencies have now got to be very conscious about regulation, not just on paper, implementing regulations.
Now the AfCFTA is something that will open up certain parts of Africa to trade between themselves. Now, when this knowledge comes to most Nigerians that, oh, some of our foods are not as whole as they should be, you know, naturally we seem to have a kind of preference for things that are foreign. Now, do you think that it will give this this practice of some of our food not meeting international standard, that knowledge coming to some Nigerians, will give room for the importation of foreign foods? Because, for instance, maybe our beans have some level of toxins, or some Nigerians say, I don't want that. If I can get beans from Ghana, which I'm sure, or which they think would not have as much toxins, because it's perhaps more internationally acceptable than ours. So that now gives room for other countries to begin to sell their agro commodities for Nigeria, thus struggling the agro markets with Nigeria.
Yeah, it does. It does. It limits our potential beyond how acceptable our exports are. It opens the market for importers to sell, because it has been under the cover all this while. NAFDAC just did the whistle blowing recently.
Okay.
And so Nigerians who are enlightened and know about it and are conscious about their health, most people have to parboil their beans, their rice before they eat, with the mind that it kills some of these toxins. But some will not be satisfied now when they've heard this. So they are going to go for imported goods at whatever price it comes. And you know that affects our forex drive.
And imported goods may at the end of the day not even be better.
It may not be, but it might just be a little bit, yes, better in terms of levels. It might not be the 60% toxins, but at least 30, 20%.
Reduced levels.
Exactly. So that now kills our drive towards getting forex, and it opens the market, as you said, for commodities from the imports from other countries. Yeah.
Okay, before we go, another thing quickly, still talking about the AFCTA. Now, there's a report that says that Africa imported over $12 billion of ICT services just in the year 2018 alone. Now, the report further says that there's a huge opportunity for Nigeria under the AFCTA, as 97 million new digital jobs will be created globally by 2025, which 80% will be outsourced. Do we have the capacity to tap into this opportunity?
Yes, it's a nice opportunity, as has been reeled out. And just to add, sorry, before, I think most of we have to now reprioritize as a government. So beyond going to beyond the anchor borrowers program, where you just borrow farmers' money, so you should now also be, the CBN or all the regulatory agencies should now be looking at providing safe fertilizers, safe pesticides, beyond just giving them seedlings. So that helps, so that our whole drive, because like this African trade and free zones, it's connected to we having good quality exports. So beyond pursuing meeting export levels, we have to increase exports by 50%. You use anchor borrower program, give seedlings. Let's also ensure quality, provide pesticides, provide tractors, and so on. So we have, it's a good market. I read that Ivory Coast, South Africa, and Ghana also, their consumption, importation of rice alone is $1 billion.
Okay, so we're still talking about the agro-commodities.
Exactly. So that's where this comes in, this report, about $1 billion. You know, so it's a way for us to.
This is actually talking about ICT. Now that 97 million new digital jobs will be created by 2025 globally, and 80% of it will be outsourced. So do we have the capacity to tap into this opportunity?
Yeah, I think we do. We have IT experts in the country. We have most of these telecommunications. Some of our IT experts provide for them. So it's about how we are able to meet our local consumption, meet our local ICT needs. So I think that's where government also comes in for
training.
To human capital. Yes, exactly, to encourage creative minds to be able to go into, because there are people who are very creative. They can write software for you in minutes, but because you need to do it on a larger scale, the economies of scale comes in, and that's where finance comes in. So you need to do this and sponsor. You know, most times you have a good software, but you need the marketing. You need it to get to ADB. You need it to get to most of these international organizations, and that's where you need a platform. And so that's where government comes in to promote all this.
Okay, that was just by the way, because we've been talking about how to checkmate the rejection of Nigeria's agro-commodities. Now, Dr. Sase has talked about several ways that the regulatory agencies can actually checkmate that. And I like the last thing you said, that it's not enough for you to give the farmers loans. You also need to teach them the new safe things to use in the farm, family implements, products that they use on their crops, to make sure that the agro-commodities at the end of the day, they are safe for use and consumption. That's the show today. Thank you again, Dr. Sase, for being on the show. My name is Blessing H, and next week will be another time when we'll bring you a fresh edition of Business This Week. Do have a great weekend.